Welcome everyone to those of you that are joining us today in person live, or to those that will look at the recording afterwards. We appreciate you making the time to come along. A few familiar faces and names in the crew there, so welcome and thank you. Today we will be talking about phase 0. So we have Judith O'Callaghan who is joining us to deep dive into this topic. It's an interesting topic, and when I first looked at the topic, I kind of dismissed it somewhat, but then the more and more I thought about it and we spoke about it, the more and more important the topic became. A few phrases come to mind as well. So the first one is hurry up and wait. Sometimes we need people to take the time to wait and think about this phase 0 topic. The other one that comes to mind is let's jump right in and get this thing done. But sometimes, and most of the time, evidence suggests that executing phase 0 and waiting and be more planned and more directed in a measured approach gives a much better outcome. So I'm really excited to hear some of the content today, excited to hear some questions and conversation, and even post the webinar, we'll continue this conversation. So moving on to the next slide, my name is Jon Pepper. I am the founder of Maintain Technology. So Maintain Technology supports and powers the Humans of ERP initiative. I've been running SAP practices and projects for over 20 years now in various capacities. I do work in a couple of different projects, and one of the ones I work in is a defense organization right now. But I specialize in practical delivery. So why I like this topic is it really makes you stop to think before you jump in around whether or not you're setting yourself up for success. I pride a lot of my reputation on being able to deliver success, and sometimes you can't deliver that success if you've been given a lemon to deliver. So phase 0 really helps set that up. Humans of ERP, as I said, is an initiative that we have started around spotlighting various people within the ERP community. So we give stories of consultants, change agents, architects, technical architects, functional people, whomever it may be that have had some involvement and some life in the world of the ERP landscape, whether that's SAP, Oracle, or any other enterprise scale application. So I encourage you, if you haven't already, get involved in our stories feature series, get involved in our webinars, as Judith has kindly been involved today. And there are some mentoring opportunities and mentor-mentee opportunities that we are encouraging people to explore. So please get in touch with us, have a chat to us about this, and we'll definitely put people in contact with the right people. So I have introduced Maintain a little bit already. That's our company. On the next slide, it really highlights the critical role that we play in enterprise transformations. So we're a trusted partner on a number of key accounts, key clients, government agencies, private agencies. We're working in the digital enterprise transformation space. We're working in digital strategy, project delivery, project rescue. And watch this space. We have some AI initiatives, as every organization does, but we have some AI initiatives that we'll be launching, and some partnerships that we'll be launching over the next couple of weeks. It is really exciting in that space right now. So without further ado, I'll introduce our guest speaker. So Judith is the founder and principal of Northpoint Integrity Solutions. Much like me, quite a lot of experience in this space, whether it's SAP or enterprise transformation, business transformation. Has cross-industry experience, mining, utilities, supply chain, often associated with asset-intensive industries, which is very common for the SAP cohort that we operate in. Definitely plays an interesting card on her approach to people, approach to neuroscience and psychology, which I think is a very strong fit for the work that Judith is about to present today on phase 0. So I would encourage you to sit back, grab a coffee, and listen to some of the interesting concepts that Judith will be presenting. You might look at these concepts and say, well, that's so obvious. But I guess the question I'd ask you whilst you're looking at that is, why haven't you or why aren't your organizations considering that? Maybe you are, though. So it's not always the case that you're not. So we might hand over to Judith. Judith, you might grab the screen and share your pack. We do have the ability, whilst that's coming up, to interact via chat. I believe there is chat interactivity, and we may at the end have some time for some questions, but please feel free to pop them in the chat. Please feel free to pop your hand up as we go through here. We'll be here for about 35 to 45 minutes. Thank you. Over to you, Judith.
And thank you for the wonderful introduction. And hello, everyone. Great to meet you. I'm Judith O'Callaghan, the founder and principal at Northpoint Integrity Services. So we are a trusted partner for independent advice. So here we are talking about phase 0. Please let me know if everyone can see my screen and hear my voice.
Loud and clear. We've got your screen and your voice.
Perfect. Thank you. All right. So this is going to be an interactive session as much as we can. And there's a lot of pointers that we can think about. So I'd like everyone to take a pause and think about the last 3 years of our lives in the organization and in the transformation space. Think about it. Please type in the first word that comes to your mind. I'm keen to see some answers.
I am hoping that the external chat access is actually activated. Yes, there it is. We can confirm with Sumit.
So I'm not able to see the chat, but I'm sure some answers have come up.
Yeah, if you're not able to see the chat, there's some items in there. Someone commented painful, fun, role change, messy, and there's a few other people that potentially are typing, but that should be enough to move forward with.
Thank you. All right. So all of us would agree with most of the things here. So last 3 years has been chaotic for many of us, like global disruptions in everywhere, which has tested the limits of personal lives and also professional lives. A lot of programs have been halted midstream. The global disruptions that most of us have experienced. So interestingly, a lot of technology go live, but in terms of it's a hard one to define. So not a lot of technology projects have delivered value. So a common thinking these days that is floating around as a result of it is like projects like AI, are oversubscribed and things like that. But for us who are working in the ERP space, one thing the last 3 years have proved is jumping into the programs or projects before we are ready creates more problems than it solves problems. Like it's a very important thing that we have learned. And business disruption is not something that we take for granted. It is a momentum killer and it kills morale and trust. So business disruption is a material thing that we need to be aware of, and then we need to work with it. The truth is, as we all know, we say that over and again, we have one chance to do it right. It's better to take the time to get it done right. I'm sure most of us in this group agree with this thoughts. Any other thoughts?
We might be limited on interactivity today, Judith. So yeah, let's push through.
Cool. So again, who are we? We specialize in phase 0 because we have seen it time and time again that transformation success depends on grit, grace, and gravitas. And we are independent, experienced, and we are brutally honest to what we do. And our team averages a global experience of over 25 years, and we advise the board and C-suite on technology and program success. So for those who follow me on LinkedIn, thank you. And I write a lot on ancient wisdom. And in a traditional business family, so some of the ancient values have been imparted in me as part of growing up. So as ancient wisdom meets modern transformation as we see it, there are three things that are driven by it. So first is having clarity on your values. So know your values, know what are your non-negotiables are and your operating principles. This is your fundamentals. Know your industry. You know your industry well, so understand your landscape and the rules in which the industry operates, and know who needs to be involved in the transformation and who needs to be engaged and who needs to be involved. Very different things. So the right people will take you to where you need to be. And know what you can trade and you can prioritize. And this is something that we know what to negotiate on and what you need to accept and what you need to keep. So these are the principles that transcend time. And genuinely, we believe that it is very important for modern transformation. Okay, so let's do a pulse on what is the first thing that comes into your mind when we talk about phase zero?
And I do see, I think we've had some feedback that some of the participants can't see the commentary or the chat messaging. So it might not be as interactive as we hoped there, Judith.
Yeah, no worries at all. Thank you.
I will put in notes to help prompt that. I think resistance is often a big one. It's like, why invest all this effort and energy up front when in fact we could just get on with the project, especially in this day and age where a lot of SaaS products, and we speak specifically about the product, if you talk about SAP, if you talk about SAP Rise or SAP Grow, cloud as a service, you kind of have drunk the Kool-Aid that you get given this application and then you can just implement it in your organization. So fit to standard and so forth. So I think that's what definitely I've heard a lot of business leaders comment on is why can't we just get going?
Okay, so phase zero is something very important, and we've talked about why can't we just go in? Yes, we can, and there is price that we will pay for getting going without knowing the directions, right? So phase zero is where we set the direction and alignment. So when we talk about organization leaders and leaders in the board aligning, so one thing is to say, do you want to go there? The answer would be yes. How do you want to get there? And what are the things that you're willing to sacrifice or compromise to be able to get there? And what is the priority for you? You'll have very different answers. So take the time to align the leaders and use the SAP tools, get your readiness assessment and everything else. So there are wonderful tools in the market. Use it, embrace it, because this will save you a lot of pain. Build a business case based on facts, not just financials. Again, this is not a delay, and you will know why when we face it. Okay, so key benefits of investing upfront. I'm sure most of us would have heard about it. Saving time and cost and leveraging expert guidance. So what it helps is to help you make informed decisions that is right for you. Not every decision may be right for you. So for example, going to cloud may not be for every organization. And if you choose to go to the cloud, there are many pathways to get there. As Jon rightly mentioned, you've got the grow pathway, which might be seemingly easier, but may come up with a lot of change. And you may also have multiple pathways in Rise. These are the things that you need to understand to make your decision, because whatever decisions you make is going to stay with you for the next 10, 15, or 20 years. So it's worth making informed decisions upfront and focus your efforts. So among like the Pareto principle applies everywhere, and it applies here as well. 20% of what you do is responsible for 80% of your success. Focus your effort on those 20%, which will help you get there. And build a solid business case. And again, can't specify that more important, because you need a business case to do it, because it's the living, breathing artifact which keeps you grounded to what you do. All right. So if we are undertaking a phase zero, this is the approach that we would follow or recommend. So start with the questions that matter and obtain strategic alignment at the most senior level of the organization. It could be the board, it could be the owners, it could be different things, but get that alignment upfront. Do not start the project at the middle management level, especially an ERP transformation. Get the board aligned, and this is where you invest most of your time on. And undertake the technical analysis, the process and value chains, because this will tell you where the organization has gone over a period of time, and it's a worth to invest on. And get your costs straight, and then work out your future state. Use the information that you have and use the information that is available in the market. And if you're in a position to try out a version 0, use that. There are so many ways you can get a version 0. And work out a good implementation planning, work out change assessments and investment analysis. This is based on facts, and version 0, we would highly recommend that to get you there, and then build your business case from there. Cool. So you might ask the question on what helps. All right. So this is a story of 3 different clients who went through a process, and three different pathways were established. So for client A, the outcome for that transformation was it is better to pause, because that business was going through a major disruption. So we recommended that this organization pauses and come back to the transformation next year with greater confidence, because 2 disruptions at any point in time was not the right thing to do for the organization. And again, numbers wise, the capital would be better spent with greater confidence in the following years. That was a great outcome for that client. For the client B, they had a bit of a challenge. So this was their attempt 5 in getting it done right. And they also had wounds that they were carrying from previous transformation failures. So we took an evidence-based transformation pathway, and the focus was on getting a high cost confidence. And we took an approach there, and they are in their pathway in their transformation journey. The third client is a quite interesting one. They had a very strong deadline that they were working on and negotiating. So for that client, because of the commitment that was there and the alignment that was there, and the OpEx benefits that could be reached by this accelerated transformation, that was the right pathway for them. All right. So now let's talk about version 0. What is version 0? Version 0 is where your vision comes to life. We believe a phase 0 combined with a version 0 will help you save more than half of your costs and 40% of your timeline. The business case is informed, and it improves the confidence in your business real data and experience. And this is supported by an informed change strategy. So version 0 is a working model of your S/4HANA system, which can be made available in 12 weeks. And again, this seeing, touching, and feeling it helps you understand how much change your organization would be for, and what are your goals, and what is the pathway to get there. And we have a very established model that is working on the version 0, and it has helped a lot of our clients there. So one thing we want to leave you with is measure it multiple times. I would say take time to align and get it done right. Take the time to get it done right. And thank you for this opportunity.
Fantastic. I think we're not sure how we're going to go with Q&A, but I've got some questions I think we could engage in some dialogue on.
Perfect.
Probably the first one is, I've got a series of them that I've prepared. How can you tell, or how can a CIO, CEO tell whether their executive team is aligned and they're not just paying each other lip service in their presence? And what I mean by that, and the reason I look at that, is trying to understand whether or not, once the organization finally pulls the trigger to go ahead with this project, how do we make sure that there's not polarizing forces against the expected outcome of the business, because often that is a huge issue in an organization. Everyone has different priorities, everyone has different KPIs, everyone has different metrics. So how can a CIO, CEO, CXO, who's responsible or is either the accountable sponsor for the project, how can they tell that an organization is ready to do this?
Absolutely. This is a very important and an interesting question, right? So when we see many of the organizations, when we are called into many of the organizations, this is the first thing that we normally pick up as, is your team aligned and are they really aligned? So there are two ways you can look at it, like for a board. One is the cognitive alignment. So which is, is everyone committed? Is everyone's priorities clear? And is everyone ready to do it? You can manage that with KPIs and everything else. And then there is this non-cognitive alignment, which comes from various other factors. So again, this is a study of the organization. When you sit with the organization, you will know the vibe, like what has the organization faced over the last X number of years? What are their success or the criteria that they worked with on the previous projects, not on paper, but with real information? And how visible is the leadership? And how committed is the leadership? So we use a bit of advanced tools, which are developed through neuroscience and other psychological factors. So what we would recommend that the board does is first have a real good engagement with the board, and then again with the peers of the CEOs and the CXOs. So with that, we will be able to say if the organization is ready, committed, and involved, ready to start the transformation. Again, it's a holistic study, and we get it done. We do that we invest 1 or 2 weeks in getting that, because in many cases, the organization that seem to be aligned or not aligned. So that's one place where we need to focus and pull our efforts in.
Excellent. That's a good one. I've had another chat come through, or another question come through, and it's looking at that, probably your slide, which is your end-to-end process approach. Often when execs are involved in this conversation, and a lot of us on the call are probably practitioner level execs, let's call it that. But when senior C-suite execs are involved in the call, involved in this process, it becomes very high level, and sometimes it doesn't tackle the complexities and the details that may need to be fleshed out. And I understand I took some notes earlier, from what phase 0 is, it's clearly not a design phase. So it doesn't replace SAP Activate in an SAP model. It's pre-activate, it's pre-prepare, it's phase 0. But how do you balance in some of those sub phases within your phase 0 block and your sort of pre-configured asset and pre-configured method? How do you juggle the balance between not just, again, jumping right in and trying to do design in a phase 0 assessment phase?
And this is a beautiful question, right? And this is something most of us working in transformation space navigate. What is the right balance and when do we do it? Again, it's a combination of facts, intuition, and experience that comes into play. So as we start the process, most of it we would know based on the facts. So phase 0 normally can take from 12 weeks, and we would normally say cap it at 24 weeks. This is the organization's commitment. It's a tricky thing after 24 weeks. If you're not able to come up with a roadmap or a business case at the end of 24 weeks, the conversation becomes challenging. So, but what we can do is identify a few big rocks, as we call it, up front. In the first 4 weeks, we will be able to understand, based on the scans that we take and the interviews that we conduct, the big rocks in the organization. And then it's an informed conversation on what are the big rocks that we need to address first to be able to provide guidance on the smaller rocks, which can be addressed during the design phase or the following phases. So this is a very important activity, and there is a lot of science behind identifying those big rocks first. So once we have the organization and the leader alignment happening there, and the scans will be able to tell us which ones to address first in the phase 0, and which ones that'll come in as in the subsequent phases.
Fantastic.
I see a hand raised.
Yes, we might have lost your audio. Aaron, can we unmute Sumit?
Yep, done.
Still seems to be muted.
Sumit, you can try speaking.
Yeah, I think he still has his mute button on, so that's okay. We will push on and we'll try to get, yeah, he's trying. We'll try to get that answer or that question from him. If I look at some of my other prepared questions that I've been working through, often, again, boards and executives want to achieve outcomes, want to achieve milestones, want to achieve goals, and sometimes by doing that, they just want to jump in. I've jumped on that bandwagon, jumping right in, and let's get to it. How do you in your process and in your narrative, and I think I've sort of asked this question before, but when speed is the dominant narrative, like everything has to be fast, competitive, speed, powerful, how do you defend the investment of a company's time to delay the opportunity, to delay the project, and actually start with a preparedness phase zero approach? And I think the statistics are very common throughout the whole of enterprise and other IT application implementations, right? 3 out of 5, 4 out of 5 fail. And when I call fail, they don't hit time, budget, quality outputs. So yeah, how do you convince an executive to do this phase?
One thing that we have learned we as humanity has learned, especially in the transformation phase over the last few years, is that the measures of time, cost, and quality, the golden triangle, is not serving us anymore, especially for ERP programs. So because 80% of the programs that have failed all have met the time, quality, and the time, cost, and quality triangle. So this is a great point for the for us to be able to use to be able to engage with the execs. So, and also in the history of the organizations, many organizations will be able to provide evidence on the programs in the organizations that haven't gone well because of the time, cost, and quality. So we did have a lot of struggle when we started talking about phase zero, because again, speed was as we talk about it, is especially in an ERP transformation, direction is more important than speed. So, for example, you can accelerate when you want to. That is really good. As long as you're not started clear, as long as your destination is clear, you can choose the pathways to get there. For example, with one of the clients that we are working with, we were able to have a roadmap that can get to their outcome nearly 2 years earlier than what they had originally planned. So again, phase zero doesn't mean that you pause and delay every activity. There are areas that you can accelerate to get there. And again, it's the value, right? So if you care about it enough, you will invest on it, because it's your company's future who depends on it. For those organizations who are welcome to, who are open to spending millions and worrying about cost, it's not a problem. They are capable of starting over and over again and continuing there and trying a new path. For organizations value their time, their disruption, their money, and everything else, and they have certain amount of time and certain amount of money to be able to do that, it's worth it. Take time to invest in a phase zero, because in the scheme of things, they may be able to get to the outcome quicker, cheaper, and in an informed fashion. Most importantly, ERP transformation is an opportunity, perhaps a once in a lifetime opportunity, to set the organization up for success. How important it is for you and how much do you value will answer the rest of the questions. Because at the end of the day, time, cost, and quality are just metrics that you put in to measure your success.
Yeah, it's a good line of conversation. I know that these are often once in a generation implementations. They last for 10, 15, 20 years in a number of cases. I still see applications that we've installed 20 years in some customers are still running whilst they're looking to replace now, but they've been running for that long. And I'm a delivery guy through and through, so I love delivering. I love the fast-paced action of delivery. However, I've seen a number of times when delivery hasn't been set up to succeed, whether that is in consulting organizations, when the pre-sales team has sold something and then the delivery team needs to pick it up and it's not properly scoped and not properly designed and defined, it becomes very, very difficult to deliver. So sometimes, again, hurrying up and waiting and slowing that down does assess that. And the other one that I've observed is it often decides whether the business is ready for the true transformation. Because whilst you can implement the tech, as cliche as that often sounds, the business is the one that needs to bring that transformation on. And sometimes they will never be ready. Sometimes the organization will never be ready, but the output of phase 0 should at least call that out. And you go in with that known, which is probably the question that Sumit had pasted into the chat around, have you ever seen phase 0 and call it prepare phase or early execution phase running in parallel as a in-between risk mitigation activity?
So to be very open with you, Sumit, the answer is yes, because we have been called into many places for rescues. So that has been an interesting thing for us to learn. So when we look at the landscape and why we were called into rescues, this is because the delivery, as you rightly said, John, wasn't set up right. And again, you take a step back and you go, okay, these are the basic things that should have been there, but they're not there. So that's where we start in many, many places. So though we would like to start at the early stage, which are our favorite clients, many a times we jump into the rescue situations and we have to get the client out of that burning fire. So yes, we've seen a lot of parallel activities that happen in parallel during that time. But our recommendation is, if you have the opportunity, do this first before you start on any of this, because end of the day, your design will be informed by the outcomes of phase 0. So, if you're doing a design in parallel, sometimes you may have to go back and rework. So to avoid rework and streamlining your thinking, we would suggest that you go through that process, and a wait for 12 weeks is going to save you a lot of pain later.
Yeah, I was hoping in your answer you were going to come back around to that point, because often, even whilst you could run them in parallel and whilst it might change the architecture of how the project is set up and established and so forth, you'll have competing priorities between the two initiatives and the resources. They'll often be the same resource pool to be involved in some of those sub-activities that phase 0 and a early design or preparation phase may look at. So fantastic. Another question has come through just around a business often believes that they have already completed this initiative themselves. So they've got their business case, they're ready to go, ready to start, even sometimes have engaged SIs or delivery partners to deliver the project. In your toolkit, so in your slide that had the 10 or 12 steps, do you have checklists or KPIs or key measures or risk assessments that can prove or disprove their position?
So absolutely right. So when someone believes they're ready there and engage their SI, that's great. So first of all, encourage them because they've got the courage to start the transformation. That is fantastic. And the second one is, while people have started and it's in place, just give them the toolkit. And we've got a set of toolkits that we can provide, and that helps open people's mind. So if any of us are in an organization that is already started the transformation and they believe they've got everything covered, this will be an add-on which will help them understand the realistic position. So one thing, I like running, and I've got a bunch of friends who I run with. So there is a very big difference between running a sprint, running a marathon, and also going for a very big hike. So very different preparations, very different cohort that is needed, and very different support system that is needed. So if you're going for a run around the block, that's great. Many organizations have done multiple projects and they would have a lot of success. That is great. Go ahead, embrace that and work on that. That's fantastic. But when you want to run a 40 miles, that requires dedication, preparation, and also a different style of cohort supporting you. And if you're into hiking and if we want to go for a day hike or a much longer hike, that requires a lot of different preparation. So just be mindful of the type of transformation that you undertake. Not every transformation has to be big, but for bigger transformation, do not take in the smaller learnings and think you've got everything covered. So that's a fallacy. Sometimes, previous success stops us from looking at what we need to prepare for the next phase. And this is the stage that I think most organizations can appreciate the support that we bring to the table. That is, equip them with the information that they would need for the longer transformations.
Perfect. Just looking to see if there's any other questions. There was another question on my backdoor chat here, which was how do you convince a board to do a phase 0 once they've already signed the SOW for implementation? I responded and I said, you don't try.
Don't try. Yeah, wait for them to call you.
Yeah, wait for them to call you. Exactly. Can certainly be a problem when you've already moved into that mode.
Yeah. So
fantastic.
One thing, guys, we are observing more and more is that the guys who have signed up the SOW are the ones who are calling us, interestingly. So phase 0, yes, it is a concept that is picking up. And also the more members of us about it in the transformation space, information goes up. So talk about it more, embrace it a bit more wherever you get a chance in your life, impart the concepts of phase 0.
Excellent. I think that is a key takeaway is even where you are exposed to this, even if it's a small project, a small package of work, you can still implement some of the components of a phase 0 for something small. It doesn't always need to be a big, deep 12 to 24 week activity in a large multi-year enterprise transformation. You can apply these principles and theories early. So I could talk about this for hours and hours. We are coming up to the 40-minute mark. I think we might do a last call for drinks, a last call for questions. And I know it's very hard because the question functionality is not working effectively. So I'll give it a few seconds. Right. Doesn't seem like we're pasting anything into the chat there. So with that being said, I would really like to thank you, Judith, for imparting your knowledge today. Again, very engaged conversation and very thoughtful conversation that doesn't just look at project delivery, project execution. So I'd like to thank everyone for joining. We will provide a link to the webinar. I encourage you, if you haven't already, and if you are navigating a transformation journey, definitely reach out to us, reach out to Judith. Also, if you'd like your story told to the greater Humans of ERP community, please reach out and we will tell your story. It's quite a fun, involved process. Also, if you wanted to run a webinar yourself because you have a topic that is beneficial to the community, again, we'd love you to speak. We've got a few lined up over the next 6 to 8 weeks, which is quite fantastic. And also, if you believe you would be a strong mentor, or if you want some mentoring as a mentee, again, reach out to us either directly via me, through my email address, via the Humans of ERP website, LinkedIn page, plenty of avenues to reach out. So thank you, Judith. thanks to all the participants. We'll wrap up now.